Welcome, listener, to CyberGPTpulse Podcast, your go-to place for staying updated on everything related to cybersecurity. Today, we have come across with a new topic as well as a new ongoing topic, which is a backdoor found in XZ Util version 5.6.0 and 5.6.1.
Um, yeah, that's right, Amir. This backdoor documented under CVE 2024 and 3094 has sent ripples across the cybersecurity community for those who are not familiar with XZ Utils. It's a popular software package which is used for file compression, crucial in the world of software development and distribution. So if I had to quickly boil down the summary of backdoor such global incident, so the incident involved social engineering a developer to gain access to the XZ project, where the aspect highlights the method used by attackers to infiltrate the XZ project. Um, it also involves manipulating individuals into performing actions or divulging confidential information. In this case, where attackers target a developer associated with the XZ project and approach underscores the human the element and a significantly vulnerability in the cybersecurity defenses. Um, Gaining access to a project like XZ is a significant breach because it allows attackers to potentially insert malicious code into software that is widely trusted and used. Since XZ is an open source project, it relies on the contribution from developers, which can be exploited if attackers can impersonate or compromise any of the contributors. And also from the Trojan perspective, the Trojan allowed remote hijacking of SSH connections, meaning the use of Trojan indicates the malicious code which was disguised as a legitimate software. So once the attackers gained access to the XZ project, they were able to insert the Trojan into the software potentially, and that can pass review processes due to the trust in the compromised developer secure shell, meaning SSH. Is kind of a protocol which is used for secure remote login from one computer to another computer. So the ability to hijack these connections is particularly alarming because it allows attackers to intercept, modify, take control of encrypted sessions that are supposed to be secure. So this capability, could enable attackers to access sensitive system and data and escalate privileges within the network and conduct further malicious activities without any detections. So
Indeed.
that, yeah.
Yeah, indeed, Elias. So the incident actually underscore of critical vulnerability within our software supply chain as well as in any supply chain because there are embedded and IoT devices which in testing they need to have SSH enabled, and in my experience I've seen that those SSH are not exactly disabled in a clean fashion, so that can be used in the future to have implement to have explored these possibility of with this type of incidents. So this actually highlights a potential risk involving the dependency management, and the backdoor was actually introduced by Gia10, a developer who had gained commit access and then release manager rights over the couple of periods. So the attack actually happens on a multi-stage level for a couple of years. So this is another interesting aspect of this attack.
Yeah, the impact of this backdoor is particularly concerning because it targets the authentication process of SSH servers. Um, uh, because potentially it allows unauthorized access to the systems. Uh, and this kind of vulnerability could enable a malicious actor to gain remote access to the entire system, which can bypass the SSH authentications as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's an important note. The backdoor is specifically affecting the system which has SSHD, which is usually allocated in user as bin. Um, though other scenarios might also be vulnerable, but that is under exploration because the finding is still new from I think 3 4 days. We have been still learning about that. So with the reverse engineering, we will find out the other scenarios, but the payload of this backdoor uh, will have a far-reaching implication.
Interestingly, the Open Source Security Foundation, the OpenSSF, OpenSSF, the other organizations were quickly able to respond to this threat. So they have been instrumental in addressing the vulnerability and providing guidance on mitigation strategies. But again, it's a stark reminder of the importance of this vigilance and cooperation with one open source community to combat such threats in the future, and so that they can reciprocate back and forth quickly and like proactively.
Yep, absolutely. So such incidents also highlight the critical role of uh, maintainer of these repositories in open source world. And I think it was Lacey Collin who was the early maintainer of XZ. Now he's facing a daunting task navigating this security breach and emphasizing the challenges the maintainer face with securing these projects. So this actually brings out another supply chain challenge, having to the single point of failure or single point of onus of securing the whole repository from the maintainer perspective.
Well, in light of this, the OpenSSF emphasizes the need for the community to rally together. So, not just in response to this incident, but proactively, but they are also advocating for the collaborative efforts to secure open source software and offer resources and training to help maintainers and developers across their company wide, so that they don't fall to this trap like in the future.
Yep. Yeah, that's quite true. And
Yeah.
like if we just recall the advent of this finding in the weekend, I have been seeing many influencers bringing on this topic of the importance of securing open source software. It's actually specifically bring the communities even closer to look into the problem and to identify the newer or the better, faster detection and response possibility of a supply in the supply chain world. So I think one of the possibility could be through system profiling. Um, One of the researcher, Andreas, has already discussed the issue through this issue was discussed through system profiling. This suggested that the vulnerability was identified by closely examining and monitoring the system activities and characteristics, often referred as system profiling. The system profiling can involve analyzing system behaviors, performance, and interaction between these components to identify anomalies, and that may indicate a security breach or vulnerabilities. Uh, it is an effective way to detect sophisticated threats that might not be triggered by the traditional system, be it the SAS or DAS or any other vulnerability management system, even the container security tools. But so with I think with advent of newer technology, be it AI and the anomaly detection using autoencoder, as it is becoming more and more accurate with lesser reconstruction error. These the automated or maybe assisted system profiling can be done in much shorter timeline. And I think this also brings the discussion point to have a more keener and finer tool integration with the system profiling and anomaly detection. Apart from that, there can be more prevention techniques like with use of prompt action. We can prevent widespread deployment as after detection of this vulnerability, people are being using immediate step where we can take which can be taken to mitigate threats, and the rapid response is very critical to prevent potential damage and spread of vulnerabilities across the system. And so for that, organization need to have a rapid response team, which in the vulnerability management, which need to have the understanding with playbook to perform prompt action and drastically reduce the impact of such a vulnerability.
Oh yeah, actually, second that probably there are threat actors which need demonstrated advanced knowledge and execution as well. So the advanced knowledge also the there are threat actors that are behind the CVE 2024-3094, which exhibits a deep understanding of the Linux operating system and its underlying components. So there are like there might be there is an ability to navigate through the system and exploit it indicates a high level of expertise in the software development, cybersecurity vulnerabilities in the specific architecture of the Linux systems as well. So the execution process works at the backdoor was not simple operation. It involves like strategic planning, sophisticated programming skills. So the fact that changes made by the threat actor span multiple years and involved evading detection tools like OSS for demonstrates a long-term commitment and a careful, orchestrated plan, I would say. So this level of execution suggests that actors are not lone individuals, but possibly part of well-resourced organizations or group, with specific targets in their mind and objectives they come up with. And there are backdoor, which includes advanced feature like remote deactivation techniques, where one of the most sophisticated features of this backdoor is its ability to remotely deactivate and remove, but from the functional standpoint, it implies the threat actor can not only gain unauthorized access, but also can erase the traces of the backdoor's existence as well. So making it even more challenging to detect and analyze the breach. As like day in day out, this feature is particularly concerning for security professionals as it allows the attackers to maintain a stealthy presence within the target system, but there are a few implications as well which we need to be aware of. The inclusions of a remote deactivation feature in the backdoor points is to highly advance the level of threat actor. So no one is concerned not just in infiltration, but also with maintaining long-term access by avoiding detection. This capabilities, I would say, it suggests a strategic approach to cyber espionage or sabotage when we're maintaining access to compromised systems. Systems in a crucial for gathering information and executing any further malicious activities at any given point of time. The another threat which arise due to vulnerability, I would say the system dependencies, like to refer the reliance on third-party software, libraries, tools with an organization technology ecosystem. So this dependency, increase the risk of exposure, especially when vulnerabilities like CVE-2024-3094 are discovered in widely used components. So the widespread use affected components, which magnifies the potential for exploitation, but also the dependencies, which are vulnerable software, can also create a cascading effect where a single vulnerability can compromise the entire supply chain of the system. So and long story short, in order for us to overcome this, there are like bunch of there is a solution called by enhancing the EDR detection, the endpoint detection and response, where critically and crucially, it identifies and respond to cyber threats by enhancing the EDR capabilities to detect the sophisticated threats like the one involved in CV-2024-3094. So this includes the improving behavioral analysis to recognize the subtle malicious activities that might otherwise go unnoticed. The other implementations, I would say, the organization should invest in advanced EDR technologies that offer comprehensive monitoring system, the detection and response capabilities. So, which can have a sophisticated backdoor implantation attempts as well. So, and also when call for industry improvement, I would say there are recognition of unpaid open source developers vulnerabilities where the largely driven by unpaid or volunteer developers can lead to vulnerabilities. And then, however, because many of these developers are not compensated for their work, there's a gap in motivation and resource to prioritize security. So this lack of support and recognition leaves an open source projects at the security risk, as unpaid developers may not have the time tool or resource to properly implement security measures. But by acknowledging this issue is the first step towards addressing it, potentially to the financial support, security tooling access, or community-driven security initiatives.
Yep. So those are really good points covered, from having the remote deactivation to having enhanced EDR, EDR solutions. As we were talking about the system profiling with EDR solution, and other detection solution need to have more behavioral analysis through the supply chain, be it in the container, be it at pre-commit control, be it at commit, or be it in the orchestration itself. So that the whole once the whole container life cycle is covered, then only we can be more confident on having a such having a better EDR or better detection tool. Or else, in this scenario, we have been seeing in seeing influencers bringing on influencer actually, and vendors bringing on their own tool and showing that how this can detect, their tool can detect such a backdoor, which kind of very unlikely, because right now we have the signature, so we can show the detection of backdoor. But unless we have the coverage of a whole supply chain, that cannot be
Mhm.
supported. This argument cannot be supported. So of course, it's really a very huge challenge. Supply chain security itself is a huge challenge, and the emphasis of having the critical requirement to enhance the security measure within the SDLC, even with the revised version of SSDF, that is NIST 820 218. Container security has a very important inclusion in the framework itself. So it's actually determined that the development practices, which is including the CI/CD pipeline, actually has a much more variety of cases, which can include vulnerability at various steps, be it due to a outdated tool, be it due to a outdated or old firmware running into an IoT device, or just a insufficient security practice in a IoT device having a default password. So even that can lead to compromise of a cloud our IoT pipeline connected to that device. So lack of another aspect is lack of automated testing. So we can have automated testing in software, but there are very few which actually targets to the embedded and IoT devices. Uh, those are usually the acceptance tests, which has certain step of bugs checks, but those doesn't focus directly to the specific supply chain risk, be it for ICS or IoT. So the industry need to use this opportunity to identify those vulnerabilities and help identifying the help detecting any insertion of any malicious injection of those codes in the software itself, not after the running of after in the time of execution, but also at the time of patch, as well as at the time of injection of such code. So that's one of the aspect. This after SolarWind, I think this is another example which helps us to again talk on to identifying the dependency management practices which need to be implemented, which kind of sometimes get ignored in the whole development cycle, and also have to update your pipeline at every time. Even sometimes I have seen in my practice that in container security, log kept is sometimes ignored. So although there are available tools with Sigstore, which can just you can enable Recur and those tools just to keep the transparency logs, which will have the inbuilt, which will be having the entries of when image was verified or validated, if there was any bypass of such certificate use. So those actually helps into detection of such a vulnerability, even if a vulnerability is already being used or exploited as a live attack in an organization. So such logs are just very crucial
Correct.
and a gold mine for the detection engineers.
Yeah, so I would say the call to action here suggests the industry-wide, which we need to move, the industry-wide need to move forward towards adopting secure coding practices by implementing the thorough testing and security checks to the development process and ensuring that all tools and dependencies in the development pipeline are up to date and secure. Well, so we are almost done. So let's buckle up as we embark on a journey through the cyber realm. So uncovering the threats and opportunities that lie ahead. So don't forget to subscribe because the Cyber GPT Pulse podcast channel electrifies your cybersecurity knowledge. So well, that's all for this week, and thanks for watching this episode, folks. Content information is in the show notes. So if you have any questions, comments, or topics that you want us to discuss in the future, feel free to email us. So until next time, stay safe, stay secure, and protect your digital world. We will catch you in the next episode.
Yeah, and thank you for joining, and enjoy securing the supply chain in the next coming week for the organization who are facing this vulnerability. So thank you, listener.